गुड मॉर्निंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। टुडे आई एम स्टार्टिंग समथिंग न्यू। आई मस्ट शेयर इट विद यू। इट्स अ travelogue. It's a series. And what's the series all about? I'll take you into the Himalayas. I'll take you into the Himalayas where I've gone. I'm putting together from memory, contemporary issues, and all that. And we'll see the borders. I'm starting with Sikkim. What constitutes that border and how does this operate? What if China comes here? Many people ask. So today we're going to talk about the Chumbi Valley. Let's understand the Chumbi Valley. What is the Chumbi Valley? The Sikkim border, right? And the young husband's expedition, which look, that was a century back, more than a century back, 1903, 1904. But when you go through that, that opened up Tibet for India. And the Tibet, the Sikkim, which you know today, uh, the young husband expedition was the first expedition went from Siliguri to Lhasa. We just understand that, where all it went, how it went. And then what is it there today in that border area? What's the significance of Bhutan? The, what's the significance of this Dolam Plateau? Everyone talks it as Doklam. It's not Doklam. It's Dolam Plateau. There's a pass called Dokala. There's a plateau called Dolam. The Chinese have called it Doklam, and we have swallowed it. That's part of the propaganda. That's the way you understand things. So we'll deconstruct all that. We'll see what the Chinese want. We'll see what do we do and what is the defense against all this. So this series is going to be a mixture of understanding the India's security related issues, also understanding the border areas, which generally people, and understanding a bit of their history, where it is, what it is, and the lie of the land and things like that. I do hope you like this presentation. This is something different. I would suggest that all of you get your children to see it, get your friends to see it, and everything, and subscribe also to Gana Shot and help me propagate this whole story. So let's get going. There's going to be a lot of pictures making you understand everything, making you understand things from the enemy perspective or the Chinese perspective. China is my enemy anyway. That's the way I've lived my life, and I don't think I'll change till my death. Okay. For example, if you look at this, you see a valley, a river going through. What is this? Right? You see this? There's hills here, and hills here, and the river going through. This is Chumbi Valley or the Yatung Valley, whatever you call it. And this is a site from the other side. How does it look? Normally we look at it from our own side, but I'm looking at it from the other side. We need to look at it. Right. So let's get going. Let's get into the Chumbi Valley and all that. But before that, I must tell you, this is Kanchenjunga, the most imposing mountain in the world. It's not the highest, let me tell you, but it is the most imposing. Why? I've seen Kanchenjunga when I was flying. When you fly from Delhi to Guwahati on a clear day, especially around this time, if you shift Delhi to Guwahati or Guwahati to Delhi, depending on, if you sit on seats the A side seats as you go from Delhi to Guwahati, you'll see the Kanchenjunga. You'll also see Mount Everest. If the pilot is good, he'll show you Mount Everest and Kanchenjunga. The most two two most prominent peaks. In fact, on a winter day, clear winter day, when you take off from Delhi and you start looking, you see all the hills. The complete Himalayan range is visible. And when you see Mount Everest, you have a whole lot of other features around Mount Everest. But Kanchenjunga stands in magnificence when you see it. And then when you go towards Siliguri, on a train, as far as 100 kilometers away from Siliguri, the plains of Siliguri, I would say the plains of Bihar, because Bihar is quite close to Siliguri, incidentally, right? You start seeing Kanchenjunga far away, and slowly it keeps coming closer up to every station. Magnificent. And when you go to the other side towards Assam, you still see Kanchenjunga. I had the good fortune of being able to see Kanchenjunga from my balcony when I was staying in Siliguri every day. Of course, on a clear day. You have your morning cup of tea seeing Kanchenjunga. I can never forget it. I had the pleasure of going north of Kanchenjunga and seeing it from the plateau, the Tibetan plateau, back at Kanchenjunga. It's a very, 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 very imposing mountain. You can see it hundreds of kilometers around. And I thought I must share this thought with you. I was very lucky that I got this kind of a opportunity. And then the second mountain, which I am completely in love with, is Chomolari. We'll talk of Chomolari today a little bit. But this is a 8,000 plus, one of those 8,000 type peaks on the border between China and Bhutan. Right? Yeah. Yeah. And the interesting thing about this peak is that not many people know about it. You have to go to Bhutan to see it. And I was lucky to see this from a tent. I stayed in a tent. I'll explain that to you in a minute. For about 6 months, every day in the morning and night, and any time when it was clear, this was the sight when I got out of my tent. I fell in love with this place. Of course, Kanchenjunga, was wherever you drove from my house in Siliguri along the main road, you saw Kanchenjunga. From where we were, we could see the lights of Darjeeling and Kanchenjunga daily. It was a sight. My children grew up with this. They were fortunate. And I spent 6 years of my life in this area, general area, Gangtok, Siliguri, Binaguri, Bhutan, and right up to the valley. So let me share some of the things from a security perspective. Okay, have a look at this. Most of the time, you'll not find me here. I don't want you to see my face. I'd rather you see what I'm going to show you. Okay, look, this is the map of the Northeast, and you have a look at all the peaks left to right, or rather right to left. Namcha Barwa, the easternmost peak of India. That's where virtually Himalayas ends, the highest point. After that, the Himalayas start tapering off. It's not that you have a lot of glaciated areas further to the east, but that's the thing. That's the 8,000 plus. And this is the place where the Ganges takes, not Ganges, the Brahmaputra takes the great bend around the Ramcha Barwa. Then you have Chumo, okay, Churakaro, right? Then you come to Chomolari. And this northern part of Bhutan, which is virtually impossible because a whole lot of 8,000 plus peaks. These are all 8,000 plus peaks. Right? Chomolari, Chumoyumo, which is on the northern edge of the Sikkim plateau. or the Gegong Plateau, as we say. Kanchenjunga, Makalu, Everest. Makalu and Everest, you have to be very clear as to which is Everest, which is Makalu when you see. And then, of course, you see a whole lot of things as you keep going east. This is the Himalayan watershed. And in this Himalayan watershed flows, two major rivers, Brahmaputra and the Ganges. And yet another river, the Teesta. And we'll talk of Teesta today. It flows through the Sikkim, the state of Sikkim. It starts at the northernmost tip is the Gyagong Plateau, and it comes down. Right. And just for your information, you see this is the Chumbi Valley. And I've had the pleasure of staying here in a place called, this is Drugel Zong at this point. We used to call it Duke Zong. Even locals called it Duke Zong. And this is the actual in China or Tibet Bhutan border. We'll talk of this a little later. But today they claim all this area. And I've had the pleasure of going till here and here and here. Well, all that I will not talk. We'll talk something. There's a place called Damtang. I remember going well past Damtang. And this is where Chomolare is. And from where I was in Dukezong, every day in the morning, they're so close. We could see it right in front of us. It's some sight. One of the best sights in the world. And I was just a young captain. I was just about 4 years of service, going back to 81, 82. Okay. We used to stay in tents in snow, normal tents, not the classic tents today. We didn't have any great boots and all, normal boots. Feet used to freeze. But yet the pleasure of seeing Chomolari every morning was magnificent. Magnificent is the word. Right? So we're talking of a different era. But the memories have never left me. This is, of course, Chomolari. This was virtually the sight I got every time I got up in the morning, or rather during the day. And the sight of the first rays of sun on Chomolari was so good. We used to have breakfast early in the morning, cold, but outside, just to see this sight and wait over breakfast as the sun comes up and, brightens the whole place. The sight. And our breakfast on days, on a Sunday, used to go up to 2 to 3 hours just sitting there and watching Chomolari light up. Okay, so let's get back to some earthly things. Oh, this is the road network opposite, the border. The border is defined by all these peaks, and then you have the road. This is the road which goes to Yunnan, comes along the border or the LAC, right? I'll not call it a border because there's no border. LAC. And it's closest to the LAC, this place called Ningchi. And that's where the new dam is. But I'll talk of it on a different thing. Right. And then, of course, from Lhasa, it goes down to Shigatse and onwards to Eastern Ladakh. And from Shigatse, a road comes down into Yatung, or rather the Chumbi Valley. And this is where Chumbi Valley is. We'll get to that. Yeah. So this is Shigatse, from Shigatse to thing. And this entire area is defined by the Gyogong Plateau at the north, the Natula and Jelapla, the only 3 entries into Sikkim. We'll touch upon it. But more interestingly, from this is the Doklam area. I'll talk of it in detail a little later. And you had why we have Bhutan, we'll talk of it. Right. This is the Sikkim border, right? As you see it. The interesting thing about the Sikkim border is the fact that this is Natula, this is Chola, rather, it's not Chola, it's actually Jalapla, and then the North Sikkim. These are the three entrances. Now, interestingly, the Sikkim-Tibet border, it's 220 kilometers long. It is defined and mutually agreed by both India and China today. Why? Because the Anglo-Chinese Convention of 1890, even before young husband went in, husband went into that place in 1903, right? It was jointly demarcated in 1895. There's no dispute about this border, except China has created a dispute with the border with Bhutan when they agreed at that point of time. The border runs along the watershed of Teesta River. The Teesta River starts from here and comes down. That's the watershed. The other side of this area, the Gyegong Plateau, water goes the other side. Okay. Key points include the mountain passes of Natula and Chola, which historically served as the trade and cultural routes. This is as per the history of this place. But Chola is actually part of the Natula thing. The real other pass is Jalapla. We'll talk of that. So, from a different point of view, as we understand it and how we, think of all these places, we look at this area from a distance point of view. This is, of course, Siliguri, right? And sorry, this is Siliguri here, and this is Shigatse, the main center on the other side. And this, of course, as you can see, is let me make it bigger. Okay. This is Siliguri. This is Shigatse. Let's look at some critical distances. This is the Siliguri corridor between the two. This is the Siliguri corridor as we know it. This is not the Siliguri corridor. This is the Siliguri corridor. Okay. It's 22 kilometers wide. And then between this area of, this is Doklam or Dolam Plateau to the Bangladesh border. I've written 50 to 100. Why 50 to 100? This is the confluence of between India, Tibet, and Bhutan. From the confluence down to the Bangladesh border, it's about 100 kilometers. But from the Bhutan border to Bangladesh, it is about 50 kilometers. So it's not so easy that you say that, I will come down and choke the Siliguri corridor. And you'll see why it can't be done. Okay. It's not simple. Right. Now from Siliguri to the northernmost tip of the Gyagong Plateau, or the Indian part, it's about 150 kilometers as the crow flies. Okay. You can go from here, from Siliguri to the plateau in one day. The 1 day's hard drive, start early in the morning on a light vehicle, and by evening you can be at the plateau. Well, it's different that you need acclimatization, all that, but that's a different story. You can do it, and I have done it. That's why I'm saying. Okay, from the border to Shigatse, it's 100 kilometers. Okay. From the border, the northern Sikkim, to Lhasa is 300 kilometers. And this is flat, absolutely flat with huge peaks going up. Now, the interesting part, this is Chumbi Valley. This V is the Chumbi Valley. Okay. And in this Chumbi Valley, this part is 50 kilometers wide. In between, where it matters across Natula, it's just about 30 kilometers, 20 kilometers wide. And of course, it comes into a pencil tip. Very important to understand this thing. Why is it important to understand this distance of 50 kilometers? In high altitude, if you put guns along this border, you can fire into Bhutan. And with what you have today with Pinakas and BrahMos, Shamos and all, it's very difficult. And you'll see why it's not so easy as we think that you can come and sit in the chicken's neck. It doesn't happen. And this valley itself, from north to south, is 100 kilometers. The Chumbi Valley. We'll explain this a little later. So, look at this. This is the Gyeogong Plateau. This is Kanchenjunga, Lachen, Lachung, Gangtok, Natula, Jalapla, Dolam, Tremola. There's a place called Ha, Paro, and Timpu. I'll get this to life now. Yeah. I'll get this to life so that you understand what's the whole story all about. Right. This is the first route the Chinese can, adopt. Starts on the Tibetan plateau. You enter the Gyeogong plateau. In fact, what is Gyeogong plateau? The Gyeogong plateau is the extension of the Tibetan plateau. Right? It is the only place where the Tibetan plateau extends into India. There's no other place where the Tibetan plateau extends into India. Nowhere else. Everywhere else, the watershed is very well defined. Even here, the watershed is defined. But the Gyeogong plateau is the only place where there's a projection of the Tibetan plateau into India. No other place. And the Tibetan plateau doesn't project anywhere else, including it doesn't project into Nepal, it doesn't project into Bhutan. So you can come down the routes down to the Siliguri corridor. You can come from the Gyeogong and the Tista starts here. And it keeps coming down, comes to a place called Lachen. Right? At this place, the Tista doesn't exist. You can walk across. I have walked north. And when you are here, you can see Kanchenjunga from to the south. You pass Kanchenjunga, come down to Lachen, then you don't touch Gangtok. Along the Tista, you can come down to. Yeah. The other route is another route which comes down, right, through Lachung from one edge of this plateau, right? And there's a place called Chungtang out here, which I have not marked. From Chungtang, both these routes converge and then you go down. But let me tell you, these are all very difficult routes. It's very nice to show all these arrows, but it's just about very difficult routes. That's all I can say. Then there's a traditional route. You come through the Chumbi Valley, right? You come through the Chumbi Valley and cross Natula and get down to Gangtok. This is the old Silk route, which all travelers through ages used to go Siliguri to Gangtok to Natula, go across to Yatung, Chumbi, and go north. There's yet another route which comes, and there's a pass called Jalapla, which is a little south of Natula, right? And when you get into Jalapla, you can go further south. You can completely avoid Gangtok and come down to Kalimpong. And then, of course, this Doklam. From Doklam, you can come further south. We'll talk of Doklam a little later in detail. What's the significance of Doklam or Dolam? I'll call it Dolam. And then, interestingly, from Tremola, there's a route valley which goes down. The route goes down to a place called Ha, and from Ha you can come down to the plains of India, or further from the north you can get into Paro, from Paro Valley and come down. Interestingly, the Bhutan is a set of valleys: the Ha Valley, the Paro Valley, and the Thimphu Valley. The Thimphu Valley goes nowhere. Okay, and this is all impassable mountains, and this is of course Chomolari. Like I said, I was staying somewhere here. 6 months of my life. Unforgettable. Right. And this, of course, is the Chumbi Valley in the center. So, when you look at what the Chinese can do, the Chinese can enter the Chumbi Valley, come via Natula, come via Jalapla, come via Dolam, come via Tremola, and come via Paro. Tremola, Ha Valley, and the Paro, and nowhere else. These are the only 5 avenues for the Chinese to reach the Siliguri corridor. But the interesting thing about this entire place, this is the Bay of Bengal. This is the relief. Okay, this is Bangladesh and Bhutan. And suddenly the Himalayas takes off here. Okay. The elevation is in kilometers. So from 0 or 100 meters, 500 meters height, you go straight away to 6,000 meters, 5,000, 6,000 meters. It's a vertical climb. You just go up, 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 and up. And then you hit the Tibetan plateau. And there, of course, it goes down. So those you need to understand, this is at 6,000 average, 4 to 6,000 meters height. Very difficult to operate at these heights. You have the luxury within 200 kilometers, you're up on the crest. China doesn't have the luxury of doing that. People say China has developed infrastructure, all that. But they have to come thousands of kilometers away. And then they have to descend into the plains. It's not easy descending into the plains. Because when the rains hit, they don't cross the Himalayas into Tibet. They are all here. In rainy season, the approaches to all these places are invariably cut off. They cut off of huge times. So the Chinese can cross the crest of Himalayas. Okay, and when rains come, they'll never go back. They can never be supplied from there. Local supplies are almost negligible. So any troops kept on this side of Himalayas, especially in this area, will be starved out. Because all supplies go from here. People don't understand this. They loosely talk. Even this TV channels and all loosely talk. It's not easy. Plus, everything is bare on top. You can see miles together. If you go on the Tibetan plateau, or rather the Gyagong plateau, and or for that matter, any place along the crest line on Chumbi Valley, the miles together. There's no place to hide. Okay. This is the cross section. This is a little different. You see this? In the east, it just takes off up. But when you go to the west, you have multiple. You have the Shiva Lakes, you have the lower Himalayas, you have the Great Himalayas, and then the Ladakh range, and the Karakorams. It's a different thing. And we'll talk of it when we go there. I'll take you to Eastern Ladakh also. Now, I'll take a little hatke. I've spoken about the larger area. We'll go into details. And this fellow is Colonel Young Husband. Okay, Colonel Young Husband. Young Husband was a British army officer who took this expedition, right? And this is a map of the expedition to Lhasa. Young Husband's expedition to Lhasa. I first got interested in this because I spent a month at a place called, there's a transit camp at a place called Natang, short of Natang actually. So in that transit camp, we had a lot of time. In 1 month, we just go up and down, loafing around, all that. So we used to do a lot of history searching. And then we came across the Young Husband Trail. And we walked along that trail. Of course, by the time I saw it, this was in 88, the trail disappears at many places because it's unused. And we couldn't go through. But we went to large sections. And at that point of time, Young Husband went through this Jalapla, walking with mules, all that. Something. So, right. Why did Young Husband go there? Lord Curzon, who was the viceroy in India, had a lot of reports coming from Tibet to say that the Russians were getting into Tibet. They were making overtures into Tibet. It was part of the great game of that time, pre-First World War, right? And the Chinese were also playing footloose. So it was then that the Britishers decided that, look, we should send an expedition to Lhasa, a military expedition to Lhasa, and get Lhasa under our grip. So Young Husband went. Colonel Young Husband, who was a, who was an adventurer of that time, who was a traveler, who traveled this entire area, right? And he went there. He was given forces. He was the leader of the expedition. There was a brigadier under him who was in charge of the military component of the expedition. That's the funny part. So he went there. Both of them, the whole expedition went. They started in December 1903. By the time they reached Lhasa, it was August 1904. And they opened up these routes. Earlier, small teams used to go up and down. Travelers used to go up and down. Traders used to go up and down. Okay? But Young Husband was the first one who took an expedition, a military expedition there. Expeditionary forces. Right, let's get to that. So this whole story starts in Siliguri, right, in December 1903. It goes up Sivak, right, and then it goes to Rangpo, and then goes to Renok. This is the route it follows. Up to Rangpo, it goes along the Teesta. After Rangpo, it deviates to Renok and it doesn't thereafter follow the Teesta. At Renok, you don't hit the Teesta. And then it went, this is Renok. From Renok, It goes through Jalapla. It didn't go through the Gangtok Natula route. It goes through Jalapla, right? By December 1903, it reached Chumbi and Yatung. These were the two townships there next to each other, which are there still. And I'll show you pictures of that a little later. Comes here, it halts here. And this crossing is done in winter. And Chumbi and Yatung, you know, are fertile valleys. And here they halt, right? And they set up base. And then they go ahead. They go ahead till they keep going. They go to Farizong by end December, cross Tangla. I'll touch upon Tangla a little later. And go up to a place called Guru, right? In fact, they go up to Tuna. By January 1904, they go up to Tuna and stop here. And then they, they are here for 3 months till April. And here there's a major battle between young husband's forces and the Tibetan forces. It's called the Battle of Guru. Now the interesting thing, let me get to some geography. If you see, this is the border between Sikkim and Tibet. This is the border between Tibet, even then it says Chumolari. It's called Chumilari at that point of time. Today, the Chinese have named it Jomolari. It's actually Chomolari, right? And here there's the road thing which goes up, right? There's that border. Now, Tangla. So the watershed comes like this, it comes like this, and goes like this. The actual watershed is like this. It's like this. Because from Tangla, there is something, there's a, like Tista starts from here and goes down. This is the Tista. It starts from here and goes down. Okay. This is Lachung. This is here Lachun. And this is, of course, it is shown as Kinchinjunga. It's Kanchenjunga. This is 23,000. This is 28,000. Big difference. The Amochu starts from Tangla. The Amochu comes down. That's the Amochu is the Chumbi Valley. It defines the Chumbi Valley. That's the main waterway. It comes down Chumbi, comes down to Yatung. And then after Yatung, it crosses into Bhutan. And then further, it crosses into India to a river which we now know as Torsa. In India, it's called Torsa. In Bhutan, it's called Amochu. In Chumbi Valley, it's called Amochu. Okay. So, this is interesting. You cross actual Tibet, you really, in my way of looking at it, you get when you cross Tangla. From Tangla to Chumbi, it's a steep descent. Okay? Okay. We'll touch upon this a little later. So, at Tangla, somewhere here at Tuna, January, the young husband expedition reaches. And in April, they, in Guru, across the road, the Tibetans built a wall. And young husband's expedition couldn't go forward. So there's a lot of jostling, there's a lot of visiting, all that. Finally, in April, the Britishers decide we have to use force. Okay, so they use force. The Tibetans were equipped with old, single shot rifles. I meant the muzzle loaders, sword, shields, all that. The Britishers had machine guns and artillery. So just massacred the Tibetans. It is said that over 2,000 people were massacred in Tibet. Over 2,000 Tibetans were massacred in the Battle of Guru. And after that, the Tibetans never fought. After that Battle of Guru, the young husband's expedition was more of a series of going place to place, occupying it, securing it, building their supplies, and going up to Lhasa. And they reached Lhasa in August. So from Guru, they went up to Gyangse. And they went to Gyangse. There's a fort in Gyangse which the Tibetans vacated. Then the young husband's expedition hung around Gyangse. And then when they went forward, the Tibetans came back and occupied Gyangse. The young husband's expedition, they also became a little dila. They found the Tibetans back there. So they had to again wheel back, fight at Gyangse, clear Gyangse. Then they occupied Gyangse. And then they moved ahead. And then, right, this again, you see, all this happened in April. All this till here, it's April. That's why, you'll see, suddenly see, they reached Gyangse in April. The next time here, you'll see, okay, let me show it to you fully. Okay, this is April. The next timeline here is July. April to July, they hung around Gyangse. Why? Like I told you, April when they reached Gyangse, Gyangse got vacated. Tibetans ran away. And when these chaps moved ahead, the Tibetans came and occupied it. Then it took them another April, May, June, July to clear Gyangse. Right? And it was only thereafter in July they started going ahead. And by end July, they reached Kambasong. Kambasong is in the outskirts of Lhasa. At Kambasong, you cross Sangpo, that is Brahmaputra, and by August they reached Lhasa. And once they reached Lhasa, they had a meeting with the Tibetans. By then, the Dalai Lama, he ran away. He ran away to Mongolia. Then an agreement is reached between the Britishers and the Tibetans. The Chinese were kicked out. And after that, a British resident was established, or a British residency was established in Lhasa. So this is the young husband's expedition. And I'll not go into full details of young husband's expedition. Right? Let me get ahead. This is Chumbi Valley at that time. That's right. And this is again Chumbi Valley. You can see this is Chomolari in the background. This is Gyangse, the camp outside Gyangse, right? This is the way they went. This is the logistics of all this place. See the photographs. Okay, this is the way. This is a mixture of Gorkha troops, British troops, local Lashkars, everything. This is the way their camp was used to be put of those days. You see men here staying here. This is where their armory were. This is where their animals were. There was a hierarchy in the way you put a camp out. Okay, this is their Maxim guns. You see Indian sepoys, right? Local Tibetans who were captured and with sepoys. Right. Now here, this is an interesting map I got, and I must explain this map to you. Okay, this is a map of that era. You look at the border. You look at the border here. It's straight like this. Isn't it? Today's map. This is today's map of the same area. You see this place and this place. See the map today like this. You see? See here. From difference from that map to this, which I circled, is here. This is the area of Dolam, and this is where the Chinese have expanded. And again, in here also, there's a difference here. You see, the map has expanded like this, something like this. Okay. So this is where they are supposed to be, and this is where they are. So from this map to this map, there's a discrepancy. And the Chinese, see, the point is, at a point of time that the Tibetans and the Bhutanese never bothered about the border. For them, it was a frontier. A little here and there, it didn't matter them because they're mountains, and mountains are gods in those areas. They're treated as gods. There's no dispute over gods. But today, it's a different story, and these lines come into play, artificial as they are. Okay, so let me get back to this. Now, this is the thing. Now, here, the interesting thing is the two waterways. This is the Amochu waterway, which I said it comes into Amochu, it then right, and another stream which comes and joins. And in between, there's a ridge line in this Yatung Valley. It's a, it's not a ridge line really. It's very low hills. So Yatung Valley, this is Yatung. So this entire valley is not as if it's plain and the Chinese can get any number of troops here. It's not easy. And then it goes. This is it. This Amochu goes down and becomes Torsa. This map, it's here. It's written as Torsa. If you look at it, closely. I don't think you'll be able to see it. Right? It's here. It's written as Torsa. Right. Yeah. Look at this map here. If you see here, it's written as Torsa. This is Amochu coming down. Right? This is Amochu coming down. But this is the area which they have enlarged. This is Dolam Plateau or the Doklam. Right? Right. Now look at it. The same thing. This is the Dolam Plateau. This is Amochu going down. They come here. They want to cut down here. And I'll explain why. This is Dokala. This is now called Doklam Plateau, but it's actually the Dolam Plateau. It's called Doklam because of Dokala. Okay. And Batangla is the tri-junction between India, Bhutan, and China. Okay. The Chinese don't refuse to believe that Batangla is the tri-junction. They've shifted it down south. And I'll talk of it a little later. See, this is Batangla. This is the tri-junction. This is where it should be. Right? Like they call it Senjunla, it is Sinchella. Yeah? Sinchella. This is Sinchella. So the actual thing should be like this, Batangla going like this, Sinchella, and going like this. The Chinese have made it like this. See this. The Chinese have made it like this. So that they've shown Indian troops crossed into Chinese territory. So they've actually shifted the international border from being here to here. And they forced it on Bhutan. And we went to Doklam or Dolam and said no. But from being here like this, actually it was like this. They've now taken this build. This is the one which I showed you earlier. This bit I showed you. This is what they've occupied. Okay. Now why is this important? This is a ridge line as you see it. This is the way actually it's on ground. Okay. This is where the Chinese want to be. This is not in their hands as it. No. This is north of it is the Dolam Plateau or the Doklam Plateau. It comes down like this. If you are here, the river comes down like this. This river is the Jaldaka. When it comes into India, right? This is India. When it comes to India, there's a hydel project there, the Jaldaka hydel project. And when you come down here, this is Amochu. This is the actual way the water flows from the Chumbi Valley, it crosses and goes into Amochu, and then it becomes Torsa. That means you're going away from the Siliguri corridor. You're going away, and you land another 60 kilometers to the east, which is of no use to the Chinese. The Chinese today are trying to expand around this. They're not able to come here. Right? This is actually the way the mountains are. This is a ridge line here, and this is a ridge line here, and this is the ridge line. Between these two ridge lines is the Jaldaka River. Between this ridge line and this is the ridge line. Is the Amochu or the Torsa River. Okay, now look at this. Look at this. This is the map which I picked off today morning. This is the claimed territory, disputed territory as they show. And this is where they are. So now they're claimed even more in Bhutan. Why they have claimed all this in Bhutan? They're not there. This is Doklam, incidentally. This is Doklam or Dolam Plateau. They are here. The Chinese are here. They claim this. Why this? Understand this. From the Dolam Plateau, if you come down to, this is Jaldaka. This river is Jaldaka, which I showed you. This is Tista. Okay. Tista starts from here and it comes down. This is Jaldaka. They're all big rivers, incidentally. And this is Amochu. It comes down from here. It flows. It comes down. Comes down to a place called Jaigaon. Jaigaon or Funshling. On our side of the border, it's called Jaigaon. On the other side of the border, it's Funshling. Funshling is the entry into that area. Okay. And from there, it becomes Torsa and goes. So they've gone if they enter this, they can come through this. It's very difficult terrain. If they have to come through this and reach Jaigaon, they've gone into wilderness. And you can start contesting them straight here. The Chinese will get massacred. Even here, it's not going to be easy. But this gives them, sitting in Dolam, it gives them a view of these plains. Complete plains you can see. You can see the plains of this entire area. That's the advantage of getting into the Dolam Plateau. And of course, for many of this, in the Siliguri corridor, this is the road starting, the National Highway Siliguri corridor. It crosses Tista here, then goes through Binaguri and all that, and then comes to Alipurdwar and goes into Assam, Barpeta. Okay. This is pretty close, just about 25-30 kilometers. So people get worried if he suddenly comes through this Dolam Plateau and inserts something here, and can you cut off that northern highway? But this highway itself has got two things. This is one, the northern alignment. There's a southern alignment through Jalpaiguri. Okay, Siliguri, Jalpaiguri, it goes down, and then of course it reaches further east. So, it's not as if the Chinese will have an easy way. Let me show you. Now, this is Yatung. See, this is the features as you see. Okay. Now, this is the border, and this is the road coming into Yatung. There's another road which the Chinese have built here. Okay. So, this is along those two river I showed you earlier. Right. Now, when you look at it on the Google map, and you see, this is how it looks. Let me make it full. Okay. Yeah, this is Chola, this is Jalapla, and this is Natula. If you see, this is the Chumbi Valley, this is Yatung, this is Bhutan. This is the area we are talking of. Okay, this is the area we are talking of. This is Dolam. This is Yatung, incidentally. Just see this whole city of Yatung. the Yatung County. It's all along the river. Okay, it's not a thing. This is Yatung as you go further. Just to give you an idea, you know how far this distance is from one edge of North Yatung to the other edge of Yatung? 400 meters. It's the size of 4 football fields. That's it. Yatung. It spreads along. So when Chinese come in, people talk very loosely that Chinese will come in here with so much force and all. They have a very narrow area to get in. These are all mountains. Have a look at all this. They're all high mountains. You can't get up. It's like going into a tunnel. The number of troops which China can put in here are very less. The only thing China can do is create a dispute with Bhutan, enlarge till they can oversee your planes. That's what we have stopped. And we are very clear about it. We are not going to let them come. And they can't come. It's not a matter of building roads and this and that. A lot of people talk. Okay. This is how it is. This is how it looks. You see, this is Kanchenjunga. See how it looks. They're all snowy mountains. It's only here there's a let up. Again, here you have all snow peaks. This area is all impassable. So you can only come here. So you have to come here 100 kilometers down into this funnel. It's like entering a funnel or entering a tunnel. It's not so easy. Whereas we have a capability from here to go right to the northernmost tip of this plateau. This is the Tibetan plateau. I would suggest most of you who are interested in this geography see this whole story today, which I'm narrating, on a laptop or a desktop so that you understand what I'm talking about. Okay? So it's like this. Now, when you look at it from the other side, this is the Tibetan plateau. These are the plains of, Bengal, North Bengal. These are the rivers which go in. Okay, this is Chumbi Valley, as you see it. Let's go closer. This is Chumbi Valley, Yatung. This is Chumbi Valley. This side is all Sikkim. This side is all Bhutan. This is Damtang. It goes down to Ha. From here it goes down to Paro, right? Okay. This is North Sikkim. From North Sikkim you go down. This is the Teesta River as you go down. And from here you go down to Gangtok. This is Gangtok. Yeah, when you go closer in, this is Yatung. See the heights here. See the heights here in this relief. That's why I said, have a look at this video on a desktop or a laptop so you get an idea as to, with fully expanded thing, you get an idea of relief. You see, even within Yatung Valley, you see these hills. You can only deploy troops here if you have to come here and get in. See Yatung thing. See the mountains on either side of Yatung, how high they are. This is the actual Amochu. Okay. And when you look at it, yeah, this is from Yatung. When you look, this is the ridge line onto, Gangtok. Okay, this is Yatung. The other side, or ridge line, Natula, ye, is ilake mein hai. And from Yatung, when you see towards Bhutan, this is what you see. Yatung is in a khadda. So it's not so easy for them. This is Yatung again, just to put it in perspective, Yatung Valley. This is the Amuchu which goes off this side. Whereas these chaps want to cross, this is Dolam or Doklam. They want to get in here and get down Jaldaka. This is Jaldaka. And get down into the plains. The natural flow of water is like this. This is the Amuchu, it goes down like this and goes down. They can go to Bhutan. They can go this way to Bhutan and they keep going into Bhutan. It takes them nowhere. What they want to threaten is here. This is Kishanganj. This is Kishanganj. And this is Nepal. So between Kishanganj and Siliguri, this area is the Siliguri corridor. They want to go here Natural flow, they go here, and we've stopped them here. Yeah, look at this again. This is our side, this is Bhutan, this is going, and this, of course, is where they want to go. They want to go this side. Right. I hope you guys have liked what I put across today. Something different. If you look at Yatung, all that valley, you have plans where, what was I doing in Dukezong, incidentally? We go sit there just to ensure that the Chinese don't come that side. And we keep doing forward patrolling and all that. We were doing this from 80s. I was there in 81, 82, so long back. Okay. And from this side and that side, when you have your guns placed on either side of Chumbi Valley and all, where can the Chinese go? They can go nowhere. They want to do salami slicing. They'll salami slice, salami slice, salami slice Bhutan, keep coming till they can see our planes. And then they can, they can see our planes, the threat is posed, then they'll try encroaching. And then they pose a threat of firepower. And then they will encroach Bangladesh. And once they encroach into Bangladesh, which they are trying, because if you see, right, yeah, let me go back to the first slide, then only you'll understand the story. I'll show you that first slide, then you can understand what the Chinese are up to. Because understanding that is very important in the overall scheme of things. Yeah, let me show that slide again back. Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah, see this. What are the Chinese trying? Okay, they want, this is Bangladesh. Okay, this is Bangladesh. Oh, okay, this is Bangladesh. They want to come here, and this is Tista River getting in. Yeah, look at this. This is, the Tista River comes down and gets into Bangladesh here. Wait, into here. And this is that place, that where they're trying to, Lal Munir Ghat, here, where the arrow is. And Lal Munir Ghat is the place where they're trying to build a air base. And the Tista Barrage project is here. The Chinese want to establish their presence here. If they establish their presence here and they come and encroach into here, then they think they can pose a problem to this. But we are made of a different metal altogether. So that's the Chinese plan. We are well on top of this whole show. And I've not shown you any sensitive things. I've shown you all information which is in the open domain, but give you an overviewing idea of what the whole story is. I do hope you liked. Very few people are seeing this. Only 127 people are watching this at this point of time. I think people are more interested in what's happening in USA, China, all that. Let me tell you, this is more important to us. So I would suggest that like this video, subscribe to Gunner Shot, and give it to your friends. Right? Yeah. Okay. So a lot of questions. I'll take each one of them. Yeah. Namaskar and good morning. Jeet, namaskar. Good morning. Sanjay. India on the move was an inspiring session. Yeah. Also, yesterday's 3 good generals. Have a great day. Yeah, you guys must see all this rather than watching all nonsense from all other guys who don't even know what they're talking about. Yeah, that's all I can say. Look, the best of what is good for India is on my channel. I have no doubt about it. It's up to you to see it. Okay, Ashish, good morning. And Amitesh, also good morning. And Akash, good morning. Nice to hear you. I heard Chumbi Valley has a lot of elephants. Yeah, they will. That entire area is elephant belt. The Jaldaka area is full of elephants. Yeah. Namaskaram, General Garu. Yeah. Open Sam is a Yao. Yeah. The joy of visiting this area was the mountaineering course at the HMI. After the course, also stayed at Siliguri and located, visited forward area in Sikkim. Yeah, I do hope you endorse what I've said so far. Right? Any case, this is just what's there. Okay. And Achintya, good morning. As I was passing Assam Rifles headquarters at Shillong, there's a border which says first time in Dhaka. What does it mean? Oh, that was when Assam Rifles entered Dhaka long back. Yeah. सर आपका भौगोलिक तरीके से आम लोगों को समझना बहुत अच्छा लगा सर भारत की प्रधानमंत्री इंदिरा गांधी के सबसे बड़ी गलती थी तीन no forget about that Anirudh the first part is more important आप आम लोगों को ये दिखाइए इंदिरा गांधी ने ज्यादा गलती नहीं की मैं बता सकता हूँ don't think that Indira Gandhi made mistakes. She made mistakes, not here, not in this area. Okay, he made a lot of mistakes. So is Mr. Modi. He's also making a lot of mistakes. I don't criticize him because he's current. But one day I'll examine when he's not there. I'll examine him and I'll tell you where all we went wrong. Okay, it's not. No one is infallible. Remember that. Okay. Yeah. Detailed study about chicken next. Nice way to start a day. Thanks. Oh, good in-depth explanation. Fascinating. How was the boundary demarcated along Yadon County? Why didn't India get that region? This is an interesting thing. You know, very interesting question. One of the things which young husband wanted was he wanted the border to be changed. You see, this is a traditional border which comes down from history. And young husband wanted the Chumbi Valley completely to be part of British India. It's there. For some reason, it didn't happen. He wanted that area which I showed you, Tangla, the head of Amochu. He wanted Tista River and Amochu to be in India. And the Paro River and everything to be in Bhutan. And Tibet, he visualized this then. Some of it didn't happen. Because by then, after 10 years after young husband, whatever he did, and then they didn't bother. They said, we've driven out the Chinese, you've driven out the Russians are never there. They're guarded. And that area is ours. They'll be under us. So they lost track of that. Then Britain went into the First World War. Things got diverted. So this is left out. That's it. Do you think China might invade Bhutan? And what for? What will they invade Bhutan for? What will they get out of Bhutan? Nothing. Since you asked this question, my next travelogue will be on Bhutan. I'll explain to you Bhutan. Then you'll understand why China will never enter Bhutan. They have designs in Bhutan, but not here. It's somewhere else. Here, if they go east, their best bet is Dolam Plateau and down south into Jaldaka. If they go east into Amochu, they're gone. Mind you, historically, no one has entered Amochu. No one has entered Amochu Torsa route. Okay. So I'll explain this in my next travelogue, which will be on Bhutan. I've also seen Kanchenjunga from my balcony every day when I was staying in Gangtok. Magnificent sight. Yes, I agree with you. Completely. Yeah. People have to be fortunate to have this thing, and you get this good fortune only in the army. Of course, those who are living in Gangtok will always see it. Thanks for the elevation profile. It put things in perspective. Narration is excellent. I love watching video for narration and evidence you gather. And yeah, we have to be critical and evidential and referenced. Otherwise, no talk. Good morning, Kiran. How are you? Yeah, you misunderstood young husband in your video as a journey you might have had. Yeah, no, no. This is young husband. I'm glad you realize there's someone called young husband and that expedition. If you don't know young husband's expedition into Lhasa, then you don't know a lot of this history. Incidentally, young husband didn't come back via Chumbi Valley. From there, he went into Central Asia and came back. He came back the other way. Okay. He came back from the Karakoram Pass or something like that. I remember that his last exit from Lhasa was from Central Asia. Yeah, morning and Prabjot Singh Namaskaram. CCP says Bhutan has its finger or something. I'll speak of this when I talk of Bhutan. Can't use Chinese use drone if troop movement. यार ड्रोन के साथ क्या करोगे? एक बॉम्ब गिरोगे, उसके बाद क्या करोगे? Okay. Do we have a plan to assimilate Bhutan into India if time comes? No. At this point of time, no. It would be useful to carry forward these expeditionary efforts of the British while incorporating them as part of our Kadamtal efforts would keep the enemy hopping while we exercise. I agree with you. Yeah, view Natula and Jalapla passes famous for the 1967 defense and thrashing given to the Chinese. They have been scared ever since. One day I'll cover this action also. Though I did cover it with along with Sanjay Kulkarni long back. It's there in Gunner Shot. But I'll explain to you what happened in Jalapla, what happened in Natula. Incidentally, Jalapla is today with the Chinese. Okay. Is war with China and Himalayas inevitable? No, I don't think so. I don't think they'll fight anymore. With China's demographic weakening, how will it affect demographic of their areas close to India? How do demographics of non-Han areas fare compared to Han? What's their economic future? Yeah, there's no demography here. Miles together. You can't see a yak also. You have to go there to understand. People can't live there. You find Yatung is today populated. After Yatung to the north, next is you have to cross Tangla and see population. Almost up to Shigatse. The Chinese have put some posts in between. That's about all. With Opsundur establishing our ability to hit and point with 1 to 2 meter accuracy, does China still think occupying and point of land advantage? No, no, out of question. That's why they've gone back. Forget it. Mera, how are you? All fine here. We have to liberate Tibet. Then definitely it won't be through Bhutan and surroundings. Like seem every place like this. When you go to Tibet, is like this only. This is one of the easier routes to go. You don't have to liberate Tibet. Tibet should liberate itself. Great session, sir. Does Bhutan still recognize China? Not recognize China? No, they recognize China. Bhutan deals with China through us. Can India handle 4 fronts simultaneously? No, we'll not handle, but we'll definitely handle the Bangladesh front. If Bangladesh does something, we'll kill Bangladesh. We'll cut off Bangladesh from all sides. Don't worry. I know what you're talking. Many thanks. Is Jalapla protected by the Indian Army in the same way as Natula? I told you Jalapla is with China. That's a different story that I'll. The next to Jalapla, there's another small pass which we hold. You can see the Chinese across. But from there onwards, we are okay. Yeah, spectacular narration from past history to the present day, the way you switched back and came to the present. Yeah, time to create dedicated theater commands. Of course, it is. Srinivas, salam, thank you. Yeah, many thanks for the wonderful session. Yeah, I've spoken about this. Yeah, thanks a lot, Panigrik. He illegal went back. Bangladesh, West Bengal? What if they're fooling us? No, no, they'll not. They'll run away. I hope this continues. I hope this SIR is done seriously and you throw away these chaps. Wonderful presentation. I'm curious why India doesn't counter salami slicing as a deterrence. We must. We must. I must. I agree with you. People should stop bashing previous administrations. They have done their best. The present achievements were accomplished on foundations previously laid. 100% I agree with you. See, many people don't understand. People who are politically motivated, people who are, pro BJP, people who are pro Hindutva, many of them are okay. Let me 90% of them are okay. I don't disagree with their thinking. Right? They have some logic. That's their thinking. That's okay. But there are 10% who are extreme thinkers who think world has started with the BJP rule. Yeah, we existed from millennium and will exist further after BJP vanishes. BJP is a good party, they're doing a good job, but they are not the only thing. They don't define India. The India is defined by many people. And remember, BJP has got just about less than 30% of votes of India. It's not a majority party. It's got a majority number of seats, not majority votes. One. Number two, it's not doesn't have a clear majority in the parliament. It is a coalition. So those of you who think that BJP is the savior of India, rethink. Yeah, Imtrad Bhutan. Yep, I agree with you. Uh, yeah, you come back, Shastriji, to say what if China decides Bhutan is another China? You keep thinking like this negatively and be happy. Any comments on India being replaced by Philippines on the squad? That's all nonsense. Yeah, thanks for taking us on a cruise dive with beautiful photograph explaining history. Thank you. Thanks for attending. What knowledge and motivation we get from this? You must write a book of all your places. Yeah, let's see if I can get the time for it. But this is virtually a book. This is a different way of putting my life across. In a instead of a book alone, every day you get to hear what I have done. That's more interesting. What are the chances of India getting Akshay Chin back? Yeah, we have a lot of good chances, right? Provided provided we can grow strong. And for that, you need to grow your military strength much more. Would you be kind enough to explain Indian Army's role in Second World War and Burma expedition? I'll do that. One of these days, I'll do that. Ground realities of 1 and 2 fishtails area, and I'll get to fishtails. And I know the fishtails well. I'll get to the fishtails later. But what we'll do is first we'll understand Bhutan next. Next is Bhutan. Then I'll go to Tawang and then I'll go to Fishtail area. We'll go east and then we'll go to the west. I heard China occupied some hectares of land in Nepal. Why can't they do this in this region? Just curious. They have. They have. I'll explain to you when Bhutan. What are the issues? Okay. Yeah. We will see more developments and security in this area under Modi era and Park and China will be history. See again, Mr. Modi is good. There's no doubt. But he is not the one who is going to define the end point of India. Remember that. India will remain much after Modi. There will be another prime minister who will come, who will take India forward, and things will happen. Okay, and many things I can say which Mr. Modi has not done, but we are not here for that. Okay. Uh, with this, thanks a lot for today. Join in the evening. We're going to discuss whether there is a G2 or there is a China-US rivalry with a panel, eminent panel. I'm starting a new series called the Casa Dialogues with my think tank. So every Tuesday we'll have Casa Dialogues, or maybe every alternate Tuesday. So we'll see where it goes. Right? Join us in the evening at 8 o'clock. I'm getting some really good people to talk. We'll have a discussion on that. With this, thank you. Have a great day and morning.